Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Why don't you write when you don't need money, honey? That would certainly make a hit.
Welcome to another episode of Word Docs. Happy New Year. This is the first episode that we've recorded in 2021. We've taken a little bit of a break to recuperate and recover and regenerate and revive our creative and academic energies. And it's wonderful to be back here with you, my friends, Dr. Amy T. Matthews.
Hello.
And Dr. Alex Vickery Howe.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Hurrah.
Did everyone have a good New Year? Did you do anything?
Do you know what we did? Can I tell you what we did? Because this is like I've reached peak old man at this point. So my New Year's was a whiskey with mum and dad in front of the telly, but we watched the cast from Sydney. So we actually had our New Year's Eve half an hour early.
Aww.
And then promptly went to bed, and half an hour later went, why are the neighbours being so freaking noisy?
Get off my lawn.
And then in the morning we suddenly realised that I think Dad reckons he was trying to tell Mum and I, but we just shut him down. We weren't listening. So
Poor Mal.
in the morning he was vindicated. But it doesn't get much sadder than that, really.
I don't know. I stayed in. And my wife went out to a party.
Oh.
Which is unusual.
You weren't together?
No, I was too tired. I was overseeing people. So I stayed in and watched a movie. I forget what I watched. That's how exciting it was. And she went to a party and rang me at 10 o'clock and said, I'm done. Come and pick me up. So I did.
Oh, so you were together for New Year's?
Well, no, she was asleep. I sat up and watched another movie. I started watching The Dark Knight, which is, of course, a great film. And I was so into it that I didn't know it was midnight. So my son texted me to say Happy New Year. And I went, oh, you're right, I suppose.
But you're a big New Year's fan, or you've said that in the past.
I'm more of a New Year's fan than I'm a Christmas fan, because I find Christmas really exhausting. And this year, Christmas was so exhausting that it even sapped me of my love for New Year.
Oh.
But actually, it was great to stay at home. I really liked it. I may have had some chips.
Yeah, we had a quiet one. We just drank champagne with my parents, went for a swim in the pool. That was it.
But you made midnight.
We did, and we drank champagne at midnight.
In the pool.
I didn't make it. He didn't acknowledge it. So,
So, yep, I'm it. I'm the representative for New Year's. So for me, it's 2021. You guys are still in 2020.
Still lagging.
I think I'm still in 1990, I think.
I reckon I peaked in 1998. Just going to throw that out there. I think that was peak Alex.
I like 2002. 2012 was good. I'm good with the two. Maybe next year, 2022, might be my year.
The year of Amy?
Yeah, maybe.
Depends what Alex is writing for next year, because as we know, all his grim prophecies come
I
true.
know. What is our ending going to be, Alex? Please write a happy ending.
Yeah.
He's not. Look at his little face.
A Peaceful Transition of Power, a novel by Alex Vickery Howe.
Yeah, no one's buying that book, are they? That's the problem.
This recording could date very quickly, because by the time it actually comes out, who knows what will have happened to America. It could be in flames, could have fallen into the ocean. Cthulhu could have risen and dragged it down into the depths.
But all of those things would almost be a relief.
Yeah.
Oh, harsh.
You mean as opposed to our actual doom scrolling that's going on today?
Yeah, I mean, Cthulhu, you'd go, well,
Fair cop.
there's some order to the universe.
Well, today we're here to talk about taking a break, which we have just done. Whether it's been an exhausting time or an invigorating time on the social front, it's been a break away from writing for some of us, perhaps. Have you guys written over the break?
Yeah, bits. Well, let go with Alex, because you're writing something quite significant.
Occasionally you find yourself writing something, and even during the process you go, oh, this isn't going to happen.
As in the writing or the plot?
The whole kind of project. You go, this is a bit crazy. I have just enjoyed living my fantasy, which is really that you get up in the morning, you make a cup of coffee and you get to write. And as a teacher, that's very, very rare to actually just go, this is going to be my day. So in a weird way, my downtime has been my productive time, if that makes sense. So I've enjoyed it just as an exercise, really. And then I'm going to take a proper break and start another book that people actually want to read, perhaps 2 or 3 days after. But at the moment, I'm negotiating because, as people probably know, I'm living with my parents while my apartment apartments being built. So I'm negotiating with mum and dad that those 2 or 3 days I just get to do nothing. Like I just get to read the book, potter around the garden. But I'm already getting the resistance because the fact that I'm not writing means that, I should be walking or there should be some kind of regimented activity going on. I'm like, no.
Yeah, that you have to earn your downtime,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I feel like Tom Hanks in The Burbs when he's arguing with Carrie Fisher. He's like, this is what I need, Carol. Just this. I want to hang out in my pajamas and that's it. And she keeps going, you want to come down to the lake? I don't want to. So that's what I sort of feel. So there's something around breaks and the guilt associated with that and the obstacles associated with that. I don't know if either of you find that sometimes, I don't know, do the people in your life let you have a break?
Yeah, I actually think they're pretty good. It's probably harder to be working around them than taking a break, to be honest. Like I'm back at work this week and trying to remind everyone in my house that I'm not on holidays is like a hard thing. They all want to just go do fun things and I'm like, I can't, I have to do work.
And stop doing fun things while I'm working. You've got to stay home and be miserable too.
That's right. But yeah, I think probably as a writer, but this is what you're talking about, I think. Like reading a book is kind of work. Like you kind of have to read and watch TV and
Well, you often say refilling the well, and I think that's true.
And just keeping up with your field and knowing what's out there and kind of filling up on story, which is what we do for a job. But it doesn't look like work. So I think it's more that people won't let you focus on that. So if you're lying on the couch reading a book, that is kind of an element of your job.
My dad thinks even me writing isn't work. So, how do you, the justification being, you want to do that anyway, so that's not work. And it's like, well.
Maybe if you swore more, maybe if you said, I've got to do this bloody writing today, Dad. It's such a chore.
So much.
Oh, yeah.
But then you get hit with, in my day, I had to do X, Y, Z. Yeah. So, I had to drag myself by my thumbs to my place of work and then eat paper all day or whatever they say. So there's that. But I think the other thing too is sometimes when you're writing something, if you're not under contract, you are writing something not knowing if it's a thing. And I don't know if I've spoken about this before on the podcast, but you actually don't know whether what you're doing is constructive work that will become a thing that later on you can say that was time well spent, or if it's a wander down a blind alley. And I've had this with plays. I've got a few plays lying around which I've maybe written half of or a draft of and gone, that one never quite came together and became a thing. I remember thinking this when I was writing watch lists, going, I don't know if this is going to be a thing, and it is now a thing. But I don't know, there's a wilderness where you just don't know. So
absolutely, yeah. I think that's a really, really huge point, actually, that if you knew, like when you've got a contract, it's very different, right? It feels like work, but when you're doing that exploratory stuff, even when you're doing book pitches and you don't know which one's going to get up, you're doing this research and writing and work that is so up in the ether that if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't feel like you worked. You're like messing around there for a bit.
I just feel like you're a crazy person for a few months.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least it's good practice for the next round of paid work, I guess. And even work that fails, you arguably should learn from, I guess. But I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. Writing books on spec is such a huge gamble because it takes so long. Wasting 6 months of your life or years of your life to write a book that might not sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only comfort you've got is, well, at least I know not to write that book anymore. Hey!
It's funny because somebody asked me, I can't remember where I was last week. Someone had read a draft of this book that I wrote years ago and asked what happened to it. And I'm like, well, it's in the drawer. Like, it never sold. And I worked on that for 2 years. And she was like, oh, that's sad. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. But it's also the job. But it is funny how many things we have that we don't follow through on.
During the break, I actually went back and looked at the manuscript of a book that I wrote a couple of years ago, and it was contracted, but it didn't work out. And my editor and agent and I discussed what we would do about this book that wasn't working, and we ended up swapping it for Impossible Music, which ended up being published and has done all right. But that book has sat in the drawer for a while. I haven't been able to bring myself to look at it because it reminded me of a very down period. But over the Christmas, I was feeling better, and I thought, I'll have a look at that book. And
let's ruin Christmas. No.
Yeah.
It's why he stayed in New Year's Eve.
And it wasn't too bad. I felt like this is a book that I could now work on. And sometimes I feel like a book that doesn't work or a story that doesn't work is just that it's at the wrong time of your life or the wrong time in your career path.
Or it's not ready to be born yet. it? Like it needs to gestate and grow and...
Needs more thought.
Because I do really think things have their time, right? That you maybe don't have the maturity or the emotional knowledge, or you just haven't quite nutted out the plot, or you need to learn something before you can come back to it.
Or the distance, and in the case of this book, I mean, it came out of the early days of my really bad chronic pain. I just didn't have the distance from those experiences to be able to write this in any kind of objective way. And in that sense, having a break from that book, I think, will actually be good for that book, whether it's published or not. So there's different kinds of taking a break.
So you will go back to it?
Oh, I'd like to. I'll email my editor who I was working with to say, do you think there's any life left in this book? I'd actually be able to work on it now. Whereas before, I'd open the manuscript and be filled with depression just seeing the book's called In My Mind. And in fact, I changed the name of the book to Out of My Mind. So so that's how it made me feel every time I opened In My Mind. But that didn't help. I still couldn't work on it.
So do you think it worked for you this time because you were on a break and so the pressure is off? Like you're not working. And so then when you look at it, you're in a different mind state. Like you're not, we spend a lot of our working lives quite stressed and busy and tired. And so you're in a mindset when you read something. Whereas if you're in a kind of relaxed, I'm on a break, just having a look at it, there's no pressure, you have a whole different reaction to things.
In this case, I'd say no, because I spent most of the Christmas New Year break recording lectures for the subject that I'm now taking. So I was actually working quite hard. But I think what really helped was me taking a break from writing almost entirely last year. I wrote a short story last year. That's it. I wrote a bunch of weird music instead. So I think taking a year off writing anything was really useful when it came to coming back to that book.
So this is that thing about, downtime and coming back. Can I just come around the block on something earlier? What point in the process of writing that book or trying to write that book did it start to become something that drove you out of your mind?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure I could pin it down. The version that I read over Christmas was the 11th draft.
Wow.
So I'd had done a lot of drafts, and they'd changed quite dramatically from draft to draft to draft. And I think at least halfway through that process, maybe draft 5, it was starting to drive me a bit mad. But I suspect I was a bit mad while I wrote it. And I certainly wasn't really in my right mind, hence the title.
Vision of Sean, like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, but with pain at the time, so not really being much of a threat. But stalking around. That was so dark.
Oh, I love it.
Because it's an interesting thing how at what point something that you come to, presumably with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of love and a lot of excitement, starts to become that stone around your throat.
Also, I wonder if, Robert Frost has this great quote about if there are no tears in the writer, there's no tears in the reader, that you have to get yourself in this emotional spot. And as you were talking, I was thinking about, that amazing Amy Winehouse documentary about how partly it was getting up every day and singing those same songs about the trauma she went through in her breakup that kept her in a really dark, damaged place. And it's this idea...
Yeah, just kept her at that spot. Yeah.
So if you're writing about your own pain, you're constantly having to go back into that mental state and that pain. So it's kind of re-traumatizing yourself over and over and over.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So maybe those are the books where it's better to just do 1 or 2 drafts and let it be a bit messy and rough and go out in the world.
Yeah, maybe. Sadly, my agent or my editor wouldn't let it happen. In fact, my agent read it because my editor and I had been working on it for many times. My agent read it at about draft 10 and went, I knew there were problems with it, but I didn't know it was this bad.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, that's harsh.
I'm not going to let you publish it. But it's good. That's why I love my agent and why she's such a good agent, because she will tell me the truth.
Yeah. You need to hear. Everyone needs to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of fallow time, do you guys do anything particular? If you're not writing something, we talked about reading to refill the well. Is there anything else you do?
I do love reading, but to me, reading now feels a bit like work. So I've been trying to avoid reading where I can because it does. I read so many things a year. So I've been reading non-fiction if I read. But for me this summer, because we had COVID last year too, and we were in this is my last recording in this little townhouse before we moved. But we've been in quite a small space, and so I've been getting out, which is nice. We've been getting out to some restaurants, and we went for my mother's birthday. We went down to McLaren Vale and went to Samuel's Gorge Winery and went for a walk on the beach at sunset and went to Pizzateca, and I'm loving that, getting out in the world and seeing people. We've been to family events and seen friends. And
apologies to everybody who's in lockdown at the moment, because you'll be shaking your fists at the speaker, your headphones.
Sorry.
Friends in the UK and the US have been just going Alex, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know. My brother-in-law's in London. It's not fun. And my agent's in New York, and so is my publisher, and it's all horrible. But we are very lucky here that we've not had it for a while. So, yeah, that's been a joy to get out in the sunshine in the summer and go swimming. And I've been trying to forget, like, my intellectual life for a couple of weeks, and now I'm back at it. I'm back to work.
Yeah, look, I think you're absolutely right. I think physical things are really important. I've started jogging, not very good at it, but I'm jogging. Seeing friends, I've said it before on this show, but seeing friends outside of this whole world is so important.
Oh, it's just such a relief not to talk about work.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend yesterday. I'm like, tell me about parasites and viruses, because that's what she does. I'm like, just tell me that. I don't understand anything about it.
Don't get any ideas. Don't write them down.
We've had the virus. We don't want the killer parasites now too.
Taking over our brains and turning us into killer zombies. We haven't even
solved the first problem yet.
But, talking to, like another friend of mine's, I don't even understand his job. He's in computers. I don't understand it. And just asking him to explain things to me, he's actually very good because he knows I can understand metaphors and imagery, so he'll turn it into a story for me. But just people that are out there doing different things and engaging with the world in a different way. I think that's so healthy.
Of course. I have spent a lot of the summer also glued to the news apps and the news because so many crazy things keep happening. Alex, stop it.
I know. I'm sorry.
Yes. They should never have made you showrunner on America.
On Life.
On Life. The showrunner of 2020, 2021. Well, I wanted to make it interesting.
Please move genres now. Yeah. Change genres.
Yeah. Amy, if you were showrunner of 2021, what would you bring in immediately, apart from a peaceful transition of power?
Oh, musicals. It has to be a musical.
Musicals. 2021, the musical.
Yeah, and it's going to be technicolour. There's going to be some tap dancing.
All right.
You know, in The Wizard of Oz, where she comes out into Oz and it's all like those big Bakelite flowers and brightly coloured, and it's all lovely except for the witch.
Yes.
If Biden bursts into song, it is an inauguration. We'll know.
He's a little bit like the Tin Man or the Scarecrow, isn't he?
I could see him being the Tin Man. I could sort of see that.
A bit oily. Yeah. It needs a bit of oil.
A bit of oil, a bit of rust, but he comes good.
He shuffled off after the Capitol, the day where they stormed the Capitol and Biden came out. And he started strong. I thought the speech was nice and strong. And then it got weaker, and then he kind of shuffles off like he's 110.
Need the oil can. Need the oil
Poor Joe.
My friend Caleb said something so sad to me the other day. He's been down here. He said, when I was young, all the old movies my mum was showing were musicals.
Yeah, I loved them.
So I turned to mum and said, when did we stop singing?
Oh, that's profound.
And this horrible melancholy, this idea that we were this happy culture and then we stopped singing. And she had to say, well, we never sang, which is even sadder now that I say that out loud.
I did watch, as I was wrapping, because I think we said in our last podcast, VC gave us an extra few days off over Christmas. And so I had a few unexpected days off, and I was watching Christmas in Connecticut while I was wrapping my presents. And I'd never seen it before.
I don't even know what it is.
Isn't that Schwarzenegger? Didn't Schwarzenegger?
No, this is really old. This is like during World War II.
Didn't he do the remake, direct the remake? Am I making something up?
Oh, no, he might have. I
might be making it up.
It's like 40, I want to say 44, but it might be 42. Barbara Stanwyck, like one of those crazy comedies where like it's a farce. And so she's like this food writer. She's like the most famous food writer in America, and he's been starving in World War II, like after being lost at sea. And he'd been reading her food column, and someone writes and says, for Christmas, well, you should ask him to, like, as a stunt for the war. And so her boss makes her do it, but she's of course not married with a baby in this idyllic farm in Connecticut. She's like a single woman writing this column while living in this tiny cold water flat in New York. And so she has to try and find a fake husband, a fake house, a fake baby. Great. And here you come. It's really fun.
What a great premise.
Loved it. Yeah. But it did make me realise I want to, I'm writing a Western at the moment. I'm enjoying that because they're comedies. Because I spent last year writing quite a sad book, and I'm like, that just pepped me up. So Technicolour Musical 2021, let's like have farces and fun and romance and joy and
fake farms.
Instead of death and conflict.
We can have dark stuff, Alex, as long as there's a happy ending.
Well,
or at least a good romance.
Or a song. At least like the Buffy episode with the singing.
Yeah, well, that's still it's got a dark edge. But, what is it they say in the second best exotic Marigold Hotel? It'll always be a happy ending, and if it's not happy, it hasn't ended yet. So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
No?
There are plenty of films that are too long that I wish had an ending. Even if it was unhappy, at least it'd be over and I could go home.
There's some plays that have like 3 or 4 endings where you get up from your chair and you're like, all right, we're ready to, nope, okay.
Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings has lots of endings.
Give it up already.
Frodo, Sam, Frodo, share the load, Mr. Frodo.
So do you find it hard coming back from a break?
Yes.
Do you, I suppose the ideal, perfect vision of a break is that you take a week off or a month off or a year off or whatever, and when it's time to come back, you come back full of energy and excitement for the thing you're supposed to be doing. Is that how it always works, or do you face the prospect of coming back to work going, oh, I'm exhausted now. I don't want to do that.
It has to be a complete break, right?
I feel okay. I feel quieter. Like I've had a complete break for a couple of weeks, but I don't think it's like Christmas is so busy and it wasn't enough. I could have had more. I think a good couple of weeks. If you go away somewhere, it's better. Like if you can get away.
Do you think?
Yeah. If as long as you've got some downtime before you go back.
Yeah.
Right. You need a couple of days to decompress. But I don't know. I feel quiet this year. I feel calmer and quieter, but also just a little bit wary about what's coming.
It didn't even last a week before there was an insurrection, so
That's
anything
right.
could happen.
No, I know. That's right.
Christmas night, thanks to my mother, we all watched Bad Times at the El Royale, which I hadn't seen.
Oh, wow.
But it's not a Christmas movie. It's not a Christmas movie. When he's doing the monologue about how he saw someone, I saw someone lay with a wolf. He was with a wolf. And you go, this isn't Christmas? This isn't...
So were you sitting through the whole thing?
The whole thing.
It was going to get
and then
Christmas?
I fell asleep on the couch. I fell asleep and woke up to my aunt poking me in the ribs going, what are you doing asleep? I'm like, oh, this is not a break. No part of this is this is like some kind of torture. Your eyelids stapled open while you listen to this guy and watch this guy talk about wolves in an intimate way. So my point being, if there is a point, it has to be a complete break so you can psych yourself up for whatever comes next. And for me at the moment, I've been quite borderline hostile with some people in my life in terms of saying, just let me be right now. I will psych myself up and come back to the world. But right now, I just need to not get deep into university politics or worry about X, Y, Z, whatever that may be. I just need to, recharge, because if I don't do that, then I actually can't come back and be useful when I'm needed, I think.
Do you know what I've done? I've got off social media. I've been like 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. It got too much with the world. I was just like, screw this. I want to see real people. I want to just hang out with people I like. And, we message each other. I like that stuff. People can message me. But I just found it all it just feels like it's problematic.
Yeah.
That's actually made me quieter, like less anxious and calmer and, not so busy in the head.
I think probably that's the curse of many writers, is that you're busy in the head.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to not be busy in the head anymore.
Yeah.
It's a weird expression, but...
And, to create, particularly when you're starting a book, because I've been at the beginning of one again, you kind of need that calm time to create something from scratch. Like you've got all these people to make and a world to make, and you can't do it with too much busyness and noise. I mean, I think, Sean, that's probably why you had a fallow time last year, right? It's because you needed to find a way to clear some space in your head, because you've got all this new stuff with the job.
We shoved his head full of lectures and students.
We did. And here's how you use the online learning platforms. And here's all the forms you have to fill out. And now here's the postgrads and the honour students. And now there's the meetings to do.
And a bunch of acronyms. And
hooray. So this is why I was doing relaxing music on the side. Nice to switch off the words for a while.
Completely.
It's actually been good. Having read that manuscript that was causing me so much internal personal trauma for so many years, I did actually have to write a couple of sample chapters for a new book. And I really enjoyed it. I found it very slow to get going. It was like I'd been sitting in a chair for the whole year, not using any of the muscles, and it took me a while to shuffle to my feet, and then it took me ages.
You were TikTok in Return to Oz when
everything's coming back round.
We've got all the Oz. Do you know, that is true though. If you stop, you lose momentum. Like it is really hard to do, or it's a bit like losing fitness, right?
Yeah.
It takes you a good couple of weeks of exercising again before you can just get back into it.
But it was good. I really enjoyed it. And I was sad to send them off to my agent, who won't think they're as terrible as she thought the last manuscript was. But I'd love to get back into writing the book. So this year I feel like it's back to a writing year. I'm very keen to make 2021 the year I wrote. write a new book.
Yay!
The first time in a while. Yes, not as many as you, Amy, and not as long as yours, Alex. Mine's only going to be 60,000 words.
We're like the Three Bears.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Bit too much, too many.
Yeah.
Sean's going to be just right.
I don't know.
I like the Oz world as a kind of reflection. Like, I imagine, The Wizard of Oz is Amy's, beautiful technicolour musical, and like Return to Oz with the frickin' Wheelers is where I live.
So is Sean in like Oz? Is that what it was called? The Michael Jackson, Diana Ross?
Oh,
The Wiz. I think it was called The Wiz.
The Wiz.
Pass.
Too good.
That's a deeply disturbing thought.
Too good.
So do you guys have any resolutions for this year? Having had a bit of time off, have you got any goals? I mean, I've got a goal to write a novel and survive our new curriculum.
Yes, I did. I actually said to a friend of mine today who's retiring. This is her last week of work and she's leaving academia. Lucky. I'm jealous.
That's the holy grail of life right there.
Retirement.
She wins.
But I was saying to her, I actually think I've had like an insanely busy last 10 years. And I would like to be a hobbit who writes. I think I'm a good teacher. I like teaching, but I want to clear the noise out of my life and my head.
Yeah, see, I'm exactly the same, and worryingly the same, actually. By that I mean not worried that I'm turning into you, but worried because that'd be fine. I mean, confusing for Johnny and everyone else, but I'm worried that I'm becoming such a happy hobbit that it's getting increasingly hard for me to, and maybe it's just a sign of time of life and everything else, but I'm nowhere near the social butterfly that I used to be. But, I'm becoming so much more comfortable. Here I am in Port Elliot, which, 5 years ago I would have kind of scoffed at and said, this is too far.
So for those of you not in South Australia, it's like a little beach
town. Coastal town,
South of the city.
Yeah, I mean, quite...
Population 40.
Yeah, 2 of whom are my parents. But, it's quite busy this time of year, but generally is very sleepy. And I, not even as a kid, but as a young adult, would have gone, I mean, I did say, why the heck did you buy a house there? What were you thinking? I could never live outside of a major city, blah, blah, blah. I belong in Sydney, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, nah, totally get it, I was going to say, look forward to inherit the house. I don't look forward to inheriting the house because that involves death. Sorry, Sean, go on.
That's right. Oh, no, I was just thinking it's hilarious that I am your future. I stayed home New Year's Eve on my own. I've just bought a block around the corner from where your parents live. I'd much rather stay at home than go out ever, really.
Yeah.
So take good look at this face. Alex, this scruffy old man.
There's a lot of upsides, Sean. There's a lot of upsides. But it is an interesting thing that and I don't know if that's a reflection of the times or what.
Yeah, probably. I think a lot of people are feeling this. Suddenly things like cooking is nice, like staying home and cooking and gardening, and people are loving all that stuff. But I also wonder if, we talked about it a lot last year, that we essentially do 2 jobs. I mean, most academics do research and teaching, but in terms of headspace, they're two whole full-time jobs that take up headspace, and then you've got your families and all the other stuff. So it's just paring it back. That's what I've been thinking about. My resolution is to keep paring things back until my life feels calm and simple.
And do you think that one of those jobs is performative? Because I really strongly feel that there's a version of me who exists in a lecture theatre space, and to some extent even in meetings, that is sometimes feigning energy that might not be there, or pushing for a lecture you may have done a dozen times before, and you're trying to make it seem like this is the first time ever, and I think that gets tiring.
Yeah.
It takes energy to feign energy. That's a sad truth.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a downer note. I was about to say we're about out of time, but I think we need something optimistic, Amy.
Well, I think the positive is about the fellow. Like the reason we're sounding tight is Sean's working because you're teaching intensive. Alex, are you still on leave?
I'm not.
No, me neither. But it's a non-teaching period, so it's like we're kind of at home writing and getting curriculum up, but really no one's around at work. So it's it's a very kind of peaceful by yourself time. So I think we sound low energy, but I think it's just peacefulness at this point.
And whiskey here. Like Dad and I are doing whiskey at 4 o'clock now. Whiskey time.
What do you drink? What whiskey?
We started off, we were curating our whiskey, and now we've gotten to, we're just spending too much money. So we've got, I don't know what it is, Johnny Walker or something. I don't know what we've got.
I could have a whiskey. Is it drinking time yet? It's summer.
No, it's not 4. It's not 4.
Of course. 4. Oh, so at 4 we can have a whiskey. All right, 4 o'clock I'll have one with you.
Yeah, and Dad gets very jolly very quickly. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. We'll do that.
I can't drink whiskey. I'm sad I can't join the whiskey club.
You can have a gin or something.
I had a bad experience when I was a teenager, and whiskies are ruined for me now. I wish I could have had a bad experience on ouzo or something like that, because easy to skip that.
But you can't, a bad experience when you're a teenager. By that logic, I wouldn't ever date again. I mean,
No, you just wouldn't date that particular person again, surely.
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, you're right. That logic holds out. You're right.
Thank goodness, because I was thinking maybe I have to give up dating. Good grief. Wait till I tell Amanda that. That'd be terrible. Well, look, my friends, it's wonderful to see you guys again. We've had a little bit of a fallow period from this podcast, which is sad, but it's wonderful to have you back in my screens and in my ears. It'll be wonderful chatting with you on more excellent subjects this semester, this year, in fact, a whole new year. And I wonder, with COVID settling down, what Word Docs might be like in a non-COVID environment, because we basically started it and then Alex ruined the world.
Yeah.
It could involve lunch.
We were heaps hyper when we were in person.
Yeah.
When we were all in the same room, we got super hyper.
Yeah, we're not in the same room at the moment, but that
you can probably tell.
Probably just more because we're lazy.
Yeah.
At some point, we'll be in the same room again.
Well, it's very hard to get like 3 hobbits in the same room unless there's a quest.
A connected hobbit hole.
I love the idea of living underground. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. Thank you all. I think maybe we need a new, instead of happy writing, I think we need something new for this year.
Oh, no.
What would it be?
The pressure.
Come on. I didn't warn you about this before we started.
May the pen be with you.
Follow the yellow brick road.
Follow the yellow brick road's nice.
I'd probably copyright it, though, multiple times.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Probably.
No, I'm not sure, actually.
No, it's very confusing. Anyway, we'll have a good week. Look forward to talking to you next week.
And they lived happily ever.
Oh, I don't mind that. That's not a bad ending.
Yeah.
Let's do that then.
All right, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Why don't you write when you don't need money? All your notes sound alike too much. All of them starts with I love you, honey, but they end with the same old touch. Just for a change, send a nice loving letter and cut out that please remit. Why don't you write when you don't need money, honey? That would certainly make a hit.
Hello?
Hello?
Is it me you're looking for? Okay.
No.
No.
You're sonorous. You're fine.
I'm sonorous.
It's all that training.
Or maybe it's the Moscato has lubricated your vocal cords and aged them.
It's being a Vickery Howe, having to get into the argument. You can project.
You make me sound like a bitter wino.
Oh, not bitter. Lovely wino.
No, cheerful wino. Okay.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.